Hello, Watem here, and welcome back to some more Higurashi When They Cry. If you're watching this as it comes out, Happy New Year. A bit late, but well, if you're watching this beyond 2022, well, congratulations on at least making it one more year. Let's just continue. Rena muttered as she tried to hold back her tears.
貴様らの条件を飲もう。この場は見逃す。フルで理科は上がれ。タカの三叉がお前に用があると言っている。
では、行ってきますですよ。ニパー。
探しましたんで、リカさん。あなたは大事な身なんですから、急に姿を消されちゃたまりませんね。こいつはルール違反です。では、リカさんは診療所に来てもらいましょう。お前たちは行け。
This whole, led Rika away, headed back into the basement. You're about to break the rules too.
約束を破る気ね。
約束？そりゃ何の話ですんね。おほった。つったら本当に舌を噛まれちゃかないませんわ。
Akasaka, come to rescue maybe at this point if you're going to come at any time.
Oi.
As Rika tried to run, Okunogi grabbed her fragile arm. She fought back, but her resistance made nothing against him. One of the mountain dogs took out a syringe from a case. It shouldn't kill her, but it would probably put Rika to sleep. It's Kana, after all, didn't need a chatty Rika, she just needed a live queen carrier. If Rika got that shot, that will mean the end of this world. Before Rika could scream, the other dog covered her mouth. The dog with the syringe drew closer to Rika's arm. Rika was being grabbed from behind and her mouth was covered. There was no way for her to fight. I believe, even if I'm asleep, I believe. Rika kept repeating that in her mind. She believed that someone would wake her up. And the first thing she'd see when she opened her eyes would be her beloved friends. It happened all of a sudden. A man with a syringe spun twice in the air and dropped to the ground. Yay! Nobody, including Okunogi, could understand this sudden phenomenon. It defied the very laws of physics. Rika couldn't understand either. The man who was holding Rika from behind spoke up. His voice had such a heavy feeling imbued in it.
数えきれない世界で後悔した。いつも気づくときには手遅れだった。
お前、誰だ?
The others took a few steps back, away from Rika and the man holding her. There are many units within the Mountain Dogs. So often its members don't remember each other's faces. There were just too many units, so nobody really paid attention. All of the Mountain Dogs were more or less well built, but this man had an excellent physique. Even Noki noticed that he'd never seen anyone like that in one of his units before. Rather, he actually wanted to recruit him. But...
私がずっと一番
I'll do that one again.
私がずっと一番伝えたかった言葉を言うよ。リカちゃん、君を助
The hands that were holding Rika left her shoulders. They left ever so gently. And as soon as they did, they transformed into a pair of furious fists, which implanted themselves in the faces of the men attacking him from behind. They flew through the air. Akasaka hit those two without even turning around. 5 members of Mountain Dog surrounded Akasaka. However, he didn't even see them. He could only feel the deep emotion of finally being able to do what he had been longing to. And the 5 of them sensed it. That maybe, just maybe, he didn't even care that they were there. A knock-knocky signal. The 5 mountain dogs bore down on Akasaka. Rika dropped to the ground, and Akasaka was left standing. Akasaka, he came back to keep a promise he made with a girl 5 years ago. But his promise was worth more than 5 years. Rika knew that. Akasaka probably understood it too. The promise went back 100 years. For 100 years, he regretted not being able to save her from the conspiracy. He believed that one day there would be a miracle, and he could travel back to this day. That was why he continued to train himself. His strong will and Rika's wish made that miracle happen. That one and only miracle allowed Akasaka to be here in Hinazawa in June 1983. The first one went down in the time it took Kokonagi to blink. Lowering himself to grapple Akasaka had proven fatal. He wasn't so soft as to let such perfect openings go by. Akasaka's hand smashed into the back of the man's head. His blow was powerful enough to smash a pillar of ice or shatter a mountain of tiles. As it happened, Akasaka was holding back a little, so that his target wasn't too injured.
赤坂は初段からやめる。だから一撃で撃沈する。微塵ほども容赦なく。
Akasaka's well-trained fists continued to knock down the mountain dogs, one member for every time Mokonogi blinked. One hit per opponent was all Akasaka needed. This was the true essence of karate. Akasaka's colleagues praised and feared his power.
その威力はまさに鉄鋼弾。
Ah yes. Weapons were useless against him. No matter how hard his victim tried to protect himself, it meant nothing to Akasaka. But he was too strong for the mountain dogs to even understand that. It was as if he was a giant they had to crane their necks up to see. Akasaka didn't even give them time to think. Someone from the mountain dogs must have called for backup. About a dozen more members had arrived. That was quick.
大丈夫だ。リカちゃん、私がここにいる限り、君には指一本触れさせない。
僕はお絵かきして待ってますです。
You have the blood on my enemies. What? As Rika stayed low to the ground, she picked up a stick and started carving the dirt. That made Kokonagi even angrier, but he calmed himself down. Then, warrior's intuition resting in Kokonagi's blood came to a realization. Numbers didn't matter. Even the full force of the mountain dogs wouldn't be able to defeat this monster. All the combat units are still down in the basement. There was no way they could take him.
ってことはよ、戦闘職の俺しか勝負にならねえってことじゃねえか。それにお前の顔思い出したぜ。こいつは懐かしい顔だ。たくましくなったじゃねえか。
貴様、まさか。
The one who kidnapped Vanessa's grandson.
標準語じゃ思い出せねえか。 なら鉛で話してやるぜ。すったら懐かしか。あん時の青二歳がよくもここまで立派になったもんよ。
It had been 5 years. This was Baron Akasaka fought when he was investigating the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Akasaka had still been inexperienced then.
あん時は手加減せん指示だった。サービスもしたらった。だがな、今日はそういうわけにはいかんね。あの樽男も助けに来ねえぞ。しかしこの5年でだいぶ鍛えよったんだ。俺は嬉しいんで。俺はこういうのを期待しとったんよ、この5年間な。お前ら手を出すな。俺の獲物で。
Akanagi took off all his equipment and threw it on the ground. He loosened one button and then positioned himself. Okay, so when he goes down, then the other guys aren't going to know what to do because their leader's down. Seeing that, Akasaka realized he was somewhat capable and narrowed his eyes in vigilance. Akanagi took that as an insult, but Akasaka only thought he was somewhat capable. His behaviour was telling Akanagi that he viewed him on the same level as the other small fry. Akasaka first moved to take up a stance and avoid getting Rika involved. Akasaka hadn't even moved one bit until just then. Akanagi could easily see that Akasaka was extremely strong, but at the same time, thought it would be simple. He would be fairly simple to take down. Karate might be a martial art, but nowadays it was just a sport. The army combat Akanagi trained in was completely different. Obviously Akasaka studied a lot, but it was all just child's play. All he learned were routine moves and forms. Besides, karate moves are fairly straightforward. Akanagi was confident that he could fight any karate pro and win. Akanagi started leaning onto his toes and using his meticulous footwork. In contrast, Akasaka still hadn't moved from his back stance. Akasaka was acting as if Akanagi's footwork was simply a trick, which infuriated Akanagi. Akanagi moved fiercely and nimbly, in a manner completely different from how Akasaka was moving earlier. Akasaka remained calm, but Akanagi saw it differently. Maybe arrogance. He can't react to my movements, so he's prepared to take damage in order to deal more. Akasaka couldn't defend himself from Akanagi's quick jab, and it connected with his face. It was a quick but light attack. Its purpose was to distract Akasaka and create an opening for Akanagi. Akanagi knew that Akasaka would use his arms to guard his face instinctively. Akanagi's real purpose was to attack his abdomen, which would then be unguarded. Of course, Akasaka didn't have enough time to guard himself. It took more than just good kinetic vision to prevent his attack. When Akanagi, who trained for many years, had perfected the speed of that technique. Normal people would struggle helplessly while vomiting if they were to experience Akanagi's kick. It could even rupture internal organs. So it was pretty amazing that Akasaka was still on his feet.
どうした空手や。相手も同じ流派じゃないと戦えないってのか。
軽い。
何？
Akasaka mumbled something, but Akanagi couldn't hear. Wow, Akasaka, wow. If you keep provoking him, he'll just pull out a gun on you. Actually, he did hear it. But Akanagi never imagined he could say such a thing in this situation. So he couldn't hear it. He couldn't comprehend it.
軽い。
なんだと。
貴様の一撃は相手を打ち倒すことしか考えていない。だから 重さが宿らない。
は
は？
What?
何をバカなこと言ってやがる。
Yeah, my thoughts exactly.
空手は心を養う。人を打つということは、自らも打たれることを知るということだ。自らの一撃が相手に何を及ぼすか。人は打つ意味と打たれる意味を知るのだ。だからそれに至らない貴様の一撃には重みが宿らない。
それは俺が未熟だということか。
Okunogi attacked Akasaka again, but this time Akasaka was different. Akasaka blocked Okunogi's fists and legs. Of course, Okunogi was still the only one attacking, but Akasaka had started to become much more aggressive. Now, as Okunogi attacked, his hands and legs were being injured. Okunogi instinctively sensed that he was in trouble. He thought Akasaka was just a police officer, but his movements were too dangerous. He was merciless, he was dangerous. So Akasaka's training and experience must far surpass Okunogi's. Wait, that dynamic heel kick isn't karate, is it? Akasaka's heel kick missed Okunogi's head by a millimeter.
てめえ、空手以外にもやってやがるな。
いや、私は空手しかやってない。
嘘つくんじゃねえ。さっきから明らかに空手じゃ見たことねえ技が目立つぞ。
Or shouldn't say something like, I only do karate. Or like, it's karate of the heart. Okunogi was starting to become impatient. The reason Okunogi ridiculed martial arts as sports was because they were all hard-headed and only used set moves. This is how you strike in karate. This is how you punch in boxing. This is how you throw in judo. Well, a lot of them are like set moves because that's how to most like efficiently transfer the force into like someone else. Like a jab isn't going to do too much compared to like using your whole body to and, like your legs as well to push your arm forwards rather than just using your arm muscles. I mean, even like just like you normally do this somewhat instinctively, but you turn your torso as well as you punch, and that adds more force to it as well. Anyway, continuing on. It's easy to learn, and that's why it's easy to win. But Akasaka was different. He said that he only did karate, and he must have spent unthinkable hours training. Yet he was flexible enough not to be confined only by formatted moves. That was understanding at a spiritual level. The spirit of martial arts isn't just forms. One simply learns forms to reach that spiritual level. Therefore, for one who has reached it, there are no forms. What Akasaka had was a philosophical spirit. Ah yes, I see. Philosophical karate.
貴様の未熟さには落胆した。
Akasaka stepped away from his original spot for the first time. He moved forwards. He filled the space between Okunogi and himself with his inescapable conviction. As Akasaka walked closer to Okunogi, Akasaka's assault radius tried to swallow him whole. To be in that radius meant death. Okunogi walked backwards to avoid being in that radius. That was the result of his clear-headed judgment. Not because he was scared, no, never.
人を打つ意味のわからない貴様に本当の重さというものを教えてやる。
As Okunogi moved backwards, his back hit the van who came in earlier. He was cornered. Having your back to wall didn't mean you were at a disadvantage. The more was pressed against that wall, the further a disadvantage it became. Okay. If Okonogi let Akasaka come any closer, Okonogi wouldn't even be able to take a combat stance. Okonogi decided it immediately. The last chance he had was the moment before Akasaka took his next step. Akasaka's foot left the ground. He was taking another step. Now. No tricks, no feints. Okonogi lowered himself and attacked with everything he had. The attack was powerful enough to break Akasaka's ribcage and rupture his heart. So he thought. I'm a professional, Okonogi told himself. I can't be defeated by this amateur.
俺が山犬のおこのぎだ。
そりゃよかったな。給料いくらだ？
At that moment, Akasaka's eyes opened wide. Quite Dragon Ball Z levels here. All the mountain dogs heard a noise. It wasn't the noise of people fighting. It was the noise of a traffic accident. Huh? Okonogi's blow missed by a slight amount, and Akasaka's fist struck inches away from Okonogi's face. There was a dent in the sliding door of the van. The windows on both sides had shattered, and it looked like the van was in an accident. Was it even possible for a human fist to do this? Time resumed its flow, and Okonogi knelt down, falling to the ground. Akasaka didn't miss on purpose. Akasaka couldn't control his fist because he put everything into one blow. Okonogi should thank Akasaka. If Akasaka had been able to control his attack better, Okonogi's face would have ended up like that van, with a dent in it, where his nose used to be. Although it didn't hit Okonogi's face, it shattered his spirit.
赤坂パチパチパチパチ
I'd like to imagine that she didn't actually clap, she just said, "Pachi pachi pachi." But in this situation, it didn't sound like applause. It almost sounded like Akasaka's fighting spirit was popping up like firecrackers. Akasaka pulled back his fist, turned around calmly, and then spoke.
次だ。面倒だから一度に来い。
They knew. Everyone knew. That there was no way to defeat Akasaka with their bare hands. They realized they needed weapons. They also needed more people. There should be a better equipped unit in the basement. All of a sudden, things began to move quickly. The remaining mountain dogs emerged from the basement.
地上での発砲は許可されていない。繰り返す。地上での発砲は不可。大鳥は R を回収して退却許可を。
The mountain dogs who just witnessed Akasaka's battle against Okonogi realized it was time for them to run. They didn't even care about Rika. Who would even think about taking Rika from him after seeing what Akasaka was capable of doing? When Okonogi regained his awareness, he jumped into a van with the mountain dogs as it drove away. Since Okonogi took off his intercom device to fight with Akasaka, he had no idea what had transpired in the basement. After the mountain dogs broke their promise with Rika, they were supposed to round up the remaining club members. But when Akasaka showed up, the dogs had to be divided into a ground force and a basement force, which altered the situation. Kasai had gone in a counter-attack. The other club members somehow climbed up from below and helped him. Since the mountain dogs weren't allowed to fire on the surface, they realized it would make the situation worse if Kasai fired his guns once he came up after them. Okonogi was unreachable, so Nightingale 1 had ordered a retreat in his place. Who would bear the responsibility for this? That's probably Okonogi's fault for taking off his intercom device to fight against Akasaka, as he basically abandoned his job as commander. But everything happened in the first place because Akasaka showed up. So maybe it was his triumph rather than Okonogi's blunder. Either way, everything was miraculous. The mountain dogs hadn't run with their tails between their legs. No. They had simply retreated for the moment. When they returned, they would have enough men and enough arms ready to kill all who stand in their way. That would happen very soon. There was no time to waste.
いいか、無事でよかったのです。なんとかね。奇跡のおかげで。奇跡じゃありませんです。みんなで力を合わせたから、その中の一人の赤坂が助けに来てくれただけのことなのですよ。ああ。そうね。この程度で奇跡じゃもったいないわね。さあ、今度はこっちが打って出る番なのです。
In the basement, the club members were talking about their grand counterattack. Rika was a little disappointed that she couldn't have joined them, but she was happy that Akasaka told her what she had been waiting to hear. Rika told him about how heroic he had been, and she got a little embarrassed. Kasai was doing alright, but Shion wasn't doing too well. Of course, it wasn't life-threatening, but she couldn't hear well in her left ear, possibly due to being so close to an explosion. To test her hearing, Shion went around to Shion's left side and whispered some dirty words. She seemed to be able to hear him fairly well. Of course, she might have been hearing through her right ear though. Shion decided to lie down on his army mattress in the torture room while Rie kept an eye on her. Mion was very worried, but Shion told her she was okay and forced her to go ahead with the next operation. Mion complained that Shion didn't understand her feelings. Now they would have to come up with an idea to rescue Tomtake from the clinic. They had Akasaka and Katai on their side, both of whom were used to battles. Also they had Irie, who knew about the secret basement of the clinic. They would have to get moving quickly, but they had to at least have a plan. It was almost 10:30 AM. Because of what they had gone through, they were exhausted, and it felt like it was almost evening. But if they were at school, it would only be the second or third period. They had to pull themselves together. They had to regain their fighting spirit. Irie checked Shion's left ear with a penknife.
耳鼻科の先生でないとわかりませんが、運が悪ければ鼓膜が破れている可能性もあります。頭痛やめまいはありますか？
いいえ。
Really?
全然へっちゃらです。
Not even a headache? Irie wet his handkerchief and wiped Shion's face gently.
驚いてます？ひなみ沢ファイターズのマネージャーに銃撃戦ができた。
ええ、驚いています。あなたが死ぬ気だったとは。前原さんに聞きましたよ。
うわ、ああいう言葉ってその場ではかっこいいけど、生き残っちゃうとめちゃくちゃ恥ずかしいですね。やだな。
If something happens to you and I live, my sister will never forgive me for that. I don't have my loved one anymore, but sisters.
茶化しっこなしです。あなたの思い人というのは、サトシ君のことですね。
さあ、どうでしょうね。今頃どこにいるやら。生きてるのか死んでるのかもわかりませんけど。
生きています。
え
Shion's thought stops in their tracks when Irie answered immediately.
北条サトシ君は生きています。彼は去年のあの日、不幸な心労がたたり、末期の発症を迎えてしまったんです。
Mion and the other club members had already told Shion about the current situation, so she understood what he meant.
私はサトコちゃんと同じ薬で治療できると思いました。ですが、サトコちゃんが治療できたのは極めて幸運なケースだったようで、 サトシ君の治療は困難を極めました。そしてその治療は今も続いているのです。
サトシ君生きてるの？
今まで話せなくてすみません。サトシ君は四角角にいます。
Shion and Irie returned from the torture room. Shion looked very serious, as if she had gained the determination to fight. Keiichi and the others were just talking about how the enemy found where they were.
入江先生の着衣に発信機か何かがつけられていることは考えられませんか？先生の私服ではなく、診療所で持たされるものや着せられるものにです。
だとすると、この白衣くらいですが。
I was going to say, what if they've got like some kind of recording device and microphone on it as well, and then realized, no, it's 83. They probably wouldn't have the means of sending all of that communication data along. Maybe. Who knows? In any case, I will be ending it here for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know any feedback you have in the comments. And until next time, see ya.